There isn't anything outside you that can create happiness. Happiness comes from inside.
Hey guys, this is going to be a fun one today. I'm just going to have a lot of fun with Michael. I read through a little bit of his bio, and he doesn't even know some of the things I'm going to bust his chops about, but it's going to be a fun time. So, as you guys know, I don't like going through the bios and all that. I'll let Michael tell us who he is. We got Michael Doyle. Michael, welcome to the show, brother. Tell us your journey.
Thanks, brother. Oh, man. Well, let's see. I'm the youngest of three, born in Chicago.
Hey, props real quick, because so am I. Well done.
What? What part? Were you nowhere?
No. I was youngest of three.
Oh, okay. Very well. You know, I was born into you wouldn't think it was a Marine Corps family. My father was in the Marine Corps between Korea and Lebanon, so he pretty much joined so he could get a city job. His older brother was a Marine. His brother-in-law was Marine. Then both my brothers joined the Marine Corps, and I was going to be the guy who broke tradition. I kind of tell people I had so much fun in high school, I stuck around for the fifth year. So, jumping into authority probably wasn't going to be the smartest idea for me. So, I worked odds and ends, wound up being a security guard and then transferring to a company called Bellwether, working at the Chicago Board of Trade as a runner in the grain futures floor. So that was kind of cool. But then Desert Storm broke out. My brother Brian, who had done his 4 years of active duty and now was in what's called the inactive reserves, going to school at UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago, and he got recalled, activated, sent to California, so thought for sure he was going to Iraq. So I was like, well, my brother's not going to go without me. I signed up. Next thing I know, he never even left the country. And a little shy of 21 years later, I retired. So, but since me, one of my cousins, five of my cousin's children and my son, all Marines. In fact, my son just got out. He was an Intel analyst, and now he's in the Chicago Fire Department Training Academy.
That is a Marine Corps family. Holy damn.
Yeah. So, but another funny part, if I could just kind of keep going with that, because I wanted to leave right away, I wasn't able to get a job. So they put me on what's called an open contract. So here's, 12 and a half weeks Marine Corps boot camp and no clue what I'm doing. Now I graduate. Now, everyone who doesn't have an infantry type job, like a rifleman, a mortarman, a machine gunner, something along that, they go to what's called combat training. So you get another month of specific like infantry type skills, and then you go to your job skill. So now I think about 2, maybe 3 weeks into this 4-week school, and the troop handler's like, hey, I got everybody's duty station. Who here wants to know where they're going? Well, 72 hands go up in the air, and he's like, put your hands down. I ain't got time for that. Where's my open contracts? And I happen to be in the second fire team in the first squad, so I was standing directly across from him. And he's like, what's your social? I rattle it off, and he flips through this book, and he's like, 6071, basic aircraft maintenance, ground support, equipment, hydraulics, pneumatics, structurals, mechanic. He looks back up at me, and I don't even get it out. A kid in the fourth squad, like, what the hell is that? He flips through the book a little bit more, and then he's like, 16 weeks, Millington, Tennessee, 12 weeks, Jacksonville, Florida. I'm like, the war's going to be over by the time I'm done with school. Sure enough, it was. So, yeah, but wild times.
Oh, that's awesome. I went the mechanic route in the Marine Corps myself, but I was on motor T and, 5 tons. So nice. I spent a ridiculous amount in school with the secondary school rebuild. And I tell everybody I'm a government trained mechanic, which means I don't know shit about being a mechanic. So that's nice. So how many years?
Manual.
Right.
It's only going to confuse us.
Right. I mean, each toolbox came with WD-40 and duct tape. I mean, so. Yes. So where'd you go? I mean, how many years did you do in the Corps? 21 altogether, right?
Just shy of 21, yes.
Okay. All right. Good on you, man. Seriously, thanks. You still
appreciate your service.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I didn't do 21 years. Holy Christ.
I never took the job serious, so it's okay.
I couldn't take it, or they wouldn't take me serious, one of the two. So what did you do after you got out? So 21 years, how many countries? How many duty stations?
Duty stations. So California, San Diego for recruit training, Camp Pendleton for combat training, Millington, Tennessee for what's considered A school, the basic support equipment school, Jacksonville, Florida for the hydraulics, and some other schools down there, a bunch of little ones put together. And my first duty station was active duty to reserve unit in Newburgh, New York. And pretty much every active duty Marine would say, like, where are you stationed? In New York. Or, what the hell's in New York?
New York, right.
So unless you're in the C-130 community, no one even knows it's there.
Well, did you at least get to go to Fleet Week while you were up there?
Yeah, a couple times. In fact, what's the guy's name? Who did Kung Fu? That dude, was it Kane? What's his name?
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about.
He was in the bleachers and fell asleep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so the last one I did, yeah. But yeah, so I was there, and the wife at the time was working for a Atlantic Coast Airlines, so we were getting flight benefits. And I wound up getting orders overseas, and never being overseas, talking to my boss, I'm like, hey, what should I do? Because it was 1 year unaccompanied. And he's like, well, you can go there. He goes, you can convert it right now to a 3-year tour.
Right.
And he said, your family can go there, they can hate it, and they can leave. Now you're stuck there for 3 years. You can go there and hate it, and you're stuck there for 3 years. So why don't you go there, test the waters, see how it goes? So I was like, okay. So then, I get there, was in the support squadron for a while. Kind of funny stories there, but wound up getting transferred to the F-18 squadron. Since the wife worked for an airline, she was going to come out and visit, check it out. Well, I checked out of the command that I was in on Thursday, checked in on Friday, which is only half a day. Saturday, we were in Australia, which sounds really cool, but we were in Catherine, which is up in the Northern Territory, which is like being on the moon with gravity, but it still was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So I gotta ask, all right, so for the civilians listening to this, you guys don't know, but when you talk about Marines, there's a subject that pops up called Master Marines, right? And it's like one of the biggest jokes in the world, because be a Marine, you got like the lowest ASVAB score, which is a test to get in the military. I mean, you gotta be smarter than just shy of a box of rocks to get into the Marine Corps, okay? So the fact that you, on your bio, you were like this math for Marine science instructor just kills me. I can't imagine what it would be like to try and train a bunch of blockheads, meat shield type dudes how to do math and science. Walk me through that, man, because, okay. I guarantee you're on a bunch of Marines, you're having a bunch of beers, drinks, whatever, and you tell people you were a math for Marines instructor, you're going to catch hell.
Well, it was the Marine Math and Science Academy is a junior ROTC school. Okay. It's the only all-Marine academy in the United States. So the Marine Corps, the Marine Corps wanted to, have one, because they didn't. I think they were the only branch of service that didn't have one. And they picked Chicago because there's just huge population of, Marines here in Chicago and people that join the Marines. So part of the issue was there wasn't any good neighborhood in the city that wanted the Marine Corps knocking on their door. So they put it in Ghetto Central. Nice. And they opened it.
Like every other military base in the world.
So, yeah, it was a sea of green. So every student's wearing the Marine Corps uniform. And, it's just like anything else. They're 10% of the population occupies 90% of your time, and, your constant corrections. But it was interesting. It was fun.
Wow.
I did not teach math, and I did not teach science.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So 21 years, you've had your wife around with you. You guys get out. Or, do you and your wife stay together that whole time?
I got out of that one, too.
Oh, nice.
No, I mean, a great woman, raised an amazing child. Together we made an amazing child. And I'm shocked. This kid's actually normal. He did 6 different schools.
So he takes after mom.
Well, he did 6 different schools in 7 years. But yeah, it remained normal. But yeah, so we knew we were over long ago. She'd actually moved out while he was in high school for a short stint. And then we were actually in a 2-bedroom duplex up at Great Lakes. I'd come to Chicago as a recruiter because he played ice hockey. And we were living in Gulf Breeze, Florida. He played for a hockey team in Nashville, Tennessee. So it was driving 6.5 hours to get him to home ice. There's not a whole lot of ice in Southeast Florida, so you're driving from state to state. And I thought, you know what? I'm done with this driving thing with travel hockey. Let's get high school hockey. So I moved back to Chicago, got on recruiting duty. So then I was able to move from a 2-bedroom house, a duplex in Glenview, which is an old naval base. They sold back to the state. And then moved up to Fort Sheridan, which is now a single-family 3-bedroom home right on Lake Michigan. Beautiful, beautiful house. And the house that she was renting was sold, so she had to get out. And I had orders to North Carolina, Miles 26, Marine Aviation Logistics Squadron 26. So I knew I was going there, knew I was going on the combat deployment. My son was rolling in his senior year. He was going to be the captain of the hockey team. The only ice in Jacksonville, North Carolina is in the beer cooler, so I wasn't getting him out of school. So, this was about 6 months beforehand. I was leaving. So I told the wife, hey, look, here's the deal. We can live with each other. I was like, you move into the master bedroom. I'll take the guest room, and when it's done, you guys are here and I'm off, with the possibility that it could work out. But it's really easy to get along with someone, 2,000 miles away. But,
so then you end up in one of the biggest shitholes of all bases, which is Camp Lejeune.
Well, I was in New River. So,
well, you were at least a little better, but it's not much better.
I mean, I could tell you some, stories, but that was a GO bachelor. I was in an open squad bay. And this isn't complaining. This is transferring data.
Right.
Open squad bay. There was one cable connection that was spliced, 20, 30 times, and all it was a snowstorm by the time it got to me. Shower with, open showers, no curtains, like zero air conditioning, and internet access was good from like 2 a.m. to 4:30. Anytime other than that, if you're not the first one on, you're not getting on. And we were being charged the same rate as the geographical bachelors and Camp Lejeune, which were, what's that little base in between Lejeune and New River?
That's where I went to school.
But you have to go on to New River to get there.
Camp Johnson.
Yes, that's it. So these guys are living on Johnson, have to go through New River to get there, but they work in Lejeune. I go there. They're like, yeah, Master Sergeant, we'll hook you up with the room, no problem, this, that. They got maid service, same thing I was paying for open squad bay. And they're like, where do you work? I was like, Miles 26. They're like, oh, yeah, no, you can't live here. So there's staff sergeants with maid service and master sergeants at a freaking open squad base. So, yeah, that was forceful to swallow. But
yeah, I can imagine.
Finally.
And for those that don't know, man, Jacksonville, North Carolina is just it's a shithole to be well, it's because you go out in town, it's tattoo parlor, bar, adult club. I cleaned that up, and then rinse, wash, repeat, and then a church on the corner. Yeah.
Others at Applebee's.
Oh yeah, an Apple. I don't think there was an Applebee's when I was there, in the 90s. So that's funny. That's funny. All right, so you go through all that, you get out. After you get, what was your last duty station? Where were you at?
It was North Carolina.
It was North Carolina.
Yes.
Okay. That was mine. Cause that was really my own.
What a great place to end the duty.
Yeah, right. There's obviously no choice. You're going to stay there and live, right?
Yes.
So you get out. You go back to Chicago at that point, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what happens? Where do you go?
So I didn't want to work for civilians, and I didn't want civilians working for me right away. So basically, I was on vacation in my hometown. And kind of funny story about that. So, doing the Facebook thing, whatnot. Well, friends are starting to tell me, hey, man, I know it's rough out there, the job hunting, how's it going, any luck, if you want, come back to North Carolina, we can hook you up with here or maybe get you in with these guys. But, so they're posting this on my wall, and I'm not looking for work. I don't want to tell them, it's not even working. I built up a nest egg, and I'm on vacation in my hometown. So I'm retired. So I get tired of that, so I actually deactivate my account, right? 2 weeks later, I walk into a bar, and I see this girl that I met in high school, or knew from high school. I walk right up to her, put my hand behind her neck, one by her waist, pulling her real close, and I'm like, oh, my God, Denise. She'd been drinking a little bit, and she's like, oh, my God, how do you know me? I was thinking, I can take this a lot of different ways. There's a lot of ways you can go with this, but I was like, you know what? I built back a little bit like it's Michael Doyle, and she's like, oh, hey. So I said, I see you don't have a drink. Can I get you a drink? She's just like, yeah, sure. So we go to the bar, and I'm like, what were you having? She's like, Stoli Razin 7. I was like, let me get 2 of those. And I hear, I turn around, it's my brother. I'm like, oh, and a Budweiser. So, then her sister comes, this, that, and the other. But meanwhile, she was with 3 friends, actually 3 friends and her sister. But all they see is this guy come out of nowhere, say something to her, walk her up to the bar, and they're just like, what the hell was that? So I was like, hey, I see you're not wearing a ring. I'm like, aren't you married? She's like, I'm separated going through a divorce. I'm like, you're kidding me. I'm separated going through a divorce. I'm like, don't you have kids? She's like, yeah, I've got 2 daughters. My eldest is Jacqueline. We call her Jack. And, she's a hockey player. I'm like, no way. My son's name is Jack, and he's a hockey player. She's like, my daughter's the assistant captain of the team. I'm like, my son's the captain of the team. It was just like click, 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 click. So that hit it off. So when she's getting ready to leave, I'm like, hey, man, I'm going to need your phone number because I want to keep this going. She's just like, yeah, I really don't like handing out my phone number. She's like, I'm still, married. Can't we just do the Facebook thing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing the Facebook thing. Like the last 2 weeks.
Right.
So got the digits, and, there's a couple, stories beyond that, but it was cool. So that starts off. But now a buddy of mine who is the ordnance chief in Kandahar, aviation ordnance. I had Marines when I was in Afghanistan. I had Marines in Kandahar and Bastion where we were staying, and then Camp Dwyer. So I was traveling all around Afghanistan checking up on them, spending the most time in Kandahar. But so my buddy Scott meets a general from the United Arab Emirates military. We get to talking, brings me up there. We start interviewing these guys, or they start interviewing us rather. There's an attaché, a general's attaché. Basically, he's the safety manager, as a retired gunnery sergeant, Marine gunnery sergeant. And he was eagerly recruiting my buddy. And my buddy's like, hey, man, you got to check out my buddy Mike. He's got this, that, and the other. So now I retire, and I'm looking to do a contract job over in the UAE. So my buddy Scott, he doesn't want to retire. He's a master gunnery sergeant, so he doesn't want to retire until he's got that job locked in. I didn't care. I punched out. Now it's time. He gets the job. He gets out. He retired. He's in the company, and now he's, hey, Mike, we're ready. You know, here's the job you got to apply for. I'm like, yeah, about that. I met this girl. And he's like, you hear yourself talking, right? But yeah, so I did divorce the wife and I married that one. So we're still married. And,
nice, dude.
So happily. And yeah, so that's cool.
But you never did the security job.
No. It wasn't going to be security. It was going to be something with aviation or something. Hazmat, something. But it could have been security, safety, something. I was out about a year, and there's this organization in Chicago. It's called 1871, and it's an entrepreneurial incubator, like a launch pad. They've got all the different resources there, and mentors come in and different speakers and whatnot. But there's a section of the 1871 that's called a bunker, and they specifically help veterans. So they would have a mixer once a month, it's a little social hour, go here, there's, suds and grub. So I meet some guy and he was just like, found out I had instructor duty and this, that, and the other. And he was just like, and he's like, you ever thought about being a JR ROTC instructor? And I was just like, it crossed my mind, but not seriously. And he's like, well, the Marine Math and Science Academy here, he's like, pretty sure they got 2 slots open. He gives me the contact. They tell me to apply. I apply. I get selected, go to school, come back. Now I'm an instructor at the Marine Math and Science Academy. Like I said, it was, interesting, but the difference there, if you drop an F-bomb in a class, there is zero reaction to it. None. No flinching, no smiles, no giggles. It's just, that's part of the language. Not that I did.
I could teach at that school.
Right.
I couldn't teach the math or anything like that, but I could be an instructor.
There was one kind of crazy moment. Actually, there were several, but there was one where this kid wound up hitting a freshman, and the kid was a sophomore. I had all the sophomores. And I have half of them one day, and I have the other half the second day. And then, every day I see him at like formation. So I see this kid hit him, and he runs off. And I'm like, seriously? I'm going to see you in 20 minutes. Like, where are you going to go? So he winds up coming back to class. I start drilling into him for hitting that kid. The principal comes up. He's like, what's going on, Master Sergeant? And I say, this kid hit a freshman. And he takes him away. So I go to start teaching the class. About 20 minutes later, principal comes back, gives me the high sign. Kid goes and sits down, and I'm like, you need to sit where your assigned seat. He's like, I'm good here. I was like, that's not a request. Rise up out of that chair and plant yourself where you belong. And he gives me this scowl look, and I think, he probably lost some of his pressure. Like, so I come from around the desk, and I like make a beeline for him, and I get close enough to where I can't physically touch him, and he can't physically touch me. But I was like, is there something you want to say to me? And he's just like, yeah. I said, good, let's go outside and have that conversation right now. So the doorway's in the front of the classroom and to the right. So I put him up against the wall. We're in the hallway, and there's a video camera that can now see us. All the kids in the classroom can see, not all of them, but the kids in the class can see me, but nobody can see him. And I said to him, I was like, what makes you think I won't put you in the trunk of a Chicago squad car right now and drop you off in another neighborhood? And the kid's like, I'm not scared. And I said, oh, unlike these other teachers at this school, yeah, I'm actually from Chicago. And I know people, and I'm going to call them and let them know you're coming. And then, you know what? Your parents put you in this school for a reason. They want you to have better than they have, and they want you to actually graduate, get something out of this. I'm like, this isn't hard. Just show up, pay attention, do your work, do your time, and get out. Go do whatever you want. I was like, but while you're here, honor your parents' wishes. And there was this kid that was a cadet the year before, Cadet Ortega. Anytime a student from that school, at any, I guess, magnet school, if you get kicked out, you automatically go to your local school. You don't have a choice. If you're going to be in a Chicago public school, you just go to your neighborhood school. Cadet Ortega lasted 30 days and the local gang killed him.
Oh,
so I said to this kid, I'm like, did you know Ortega? And he's like, yeah, I knew him. And I said, he lasted 30 days. How long do you think you're going to last? I'm like, do what you're supposed to do, whatever. So I put him back in the classroom, and now I was like, okay, where were we? I'm like, who's my next reader? That kid's hands like, I will read for you. Yes. As soon as he was done, he read again. He's like, I'm not done. I will continue to read for you. But that, it was short-lived. He got back into the old habit.
I mean, but that's interesting. I mean, I'm sure some people that are going to hear that story are going to like, holy shit, how could he be that rough on a kid? But you got to understand where you are. And if you would right. Well, I mean, if you would have sugarcoated that you'd have never gotten through to that kid.
Oh, absolutely not. And that was hard on me because that's what I had to go through to physically get through to him. Like I said, 90% of the students are amazing kids, awesome kids. They're just in a bad situation, in a bad location, and their parents want better for them, and they're on their way out.
Right.
So, absolutely kudos for them they're putting forth the effort. But there's some, and even out of the 10%, there's really only 10% of those. So like 1% of the school are just destined to, I just have to be here till I can drop out or whatever their goal is. I don't know what it is, but it's unfortunate, but that's, just a fact of life. And yes, for people who've never seen that craziness, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, and kudos to the teachers nowadays because I know how much of a shithead I was when I was in school.
No.
Well, I'm still a shithead in some circles, but I couldn't imagine being a teacher in this day and age, especially with technology on top of it. Thank God we grew up in the era where there was no cell phones and everything else.
Much less evidence.
Nice. So are you still an instructor there?
No. So between the working with the bunker and going to military career fairs, the city of Chicago had a booth at one of the sites, and, I was checking them out. And then, afterwards you start going through websites. Well, I checked the city website. Okay, nothing I'm really interested in. Like a couple of weeks later, I checked back. All those jobs are gone. It's all new jobs. I'm like, man. So the next career fair I went to, I went to the city of Chicago booth. I'm like, hey, man, what's the deal? If you don't check that website every single day, you're going to miss a job. He goes, oh, no. He's like, fill out a profile. Upload your resume, fill out their resume, which is like 5 pages. Tell them, what you're interested in doing, what part of the city you want to work, what days you want to work, what shift you want to work, do you want hourly, you want salary. Put all that stuff in there. And then when one of those jobs comes up that matches your profile, they'll send you an email and ask if you want to apply for it. I'm like, okay, that makes more sense. So then sure enough, I went ahead and applied. Well, I don't know. It seemed like a year later, this guy from Human Resources calls. He's like, hey, Mike, I'd like to come in for an interview. I'm like, sounds cool. For what? And he's like, Director of Maintenance Operations for Fleet and Facility Management. I was like, okay. And yeah, so I applied for that. It was like a dream job. So I left the Marine Math and Science Academy to wind up doing that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, how long did you do that?
That I was doing for almost 4 years. Almost 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then where'd that take you?
So that took me to pretty much today. Now, I actually resigned my position May 1st, and that's so my schedule is my schedule.
So like 30 days ago, I mean, unless
24.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whatever today is. I mean, it's 25
yeah.
days.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so you know what? I mean, I was retired once. I thought this would be cool, having a second retirement. I had a buddy that did that. He was a 26-year Master Sergeant, Vietnam era. Was in Vietnam, retired, and then became an instructor, did the civil service, retired from that, and then like next month he was collecting Social Security. So the guy's got 3 paychecks coming in. Then I started doing the second job after I retired. I'm like, man, I don't know. And then it's working for, a government, city government. So that's, there's a lot of, I don't want to go down that road.
Right.
But I'm like, man, am I really going to do this for 20 more years? And granted, don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I'm very grateful it was paid graciously. But when they hired me at the top. And then we went into this system called the STEP program. So it really counts on how many years you have in the city before you can advance pay raise. So my next pay raise was going to be 2027.
Oh.
And I'd known about that for the last 2 years. So I was like, this is it, Again, healthy paycheck, but, really like it. So I've got it. And it's kind of funny because, the Marine Corps, you're so ingrained as soon as you get as soon as I got it promoted, I was preparing for the next promotion. It's like, what do I got to do to get promoted? And then same concept. It was always, what do I get to the next promotion? And, it's the same as like every 3 or 4 years, you're picking up and moving somewhere else in the country or the world. So when I started to hit my 3-year mark, I'm like, yeah, I can do that.
Got that itch. So what are you doing now? I mean, you've gone on all these crazy journeys, and Lord knows at some point you and I got to find a cocktail, because I guarantee that's a lot of fun.
There's a lot I can't say here.
Yeah, right. Thank you for that. I'm risque, but so what are you doing now?
Right now, I'm a gratitude life coach. So I take people through what I call the gratitude boot camp. I do that with a group and in individuals. So that's pretty much the transition to what I do now as an entrepreneur. And there's a couple other irons in the fire, but that's the big one right now.
So what is a gratitude life coach? I mean, there's so many misconceptions about a life coach out there. Well, there's misconceptions about a coach in general, but what is a gratitude life coach?
So basically, I don't have the answers. I don't profess to. Each individual has their own answers, but for some reason they're hiding them from themselves. They're blocking themselves. And I show them how to open up and reveal their own answers. For their own path.
And why should somebody do that?
Well, because if there's an area of life where they're failing, I can help them get out of that. I can help them get around that, overcome that. And, I don't believe life should be a struggle. And I think so many people struggle with life. Like, that's so hard. In fact, I don't know if you've ever done any guided meditation.
Guided meditation? No.
Yes. Okay. So it's basically there's someone speaking, you get in a room, dim the lights, turn the lights out, soft music, and someone talks you through whatever scene that they're taking you through. So this particular one, they were taking us through our own forest. It's the forest of our mind. And there's just people, moaning and screaming, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on in your head that, you're in your own head right now. And people can't handle that. And these are, supposedly sane people. So then we get out and, it's an open field. Now, with me, my experience, when I do guided meditation, I am always ahead of the people. It's like I know what's coming, or it's, I fly, I move. So it's like, we got through the forest and they're like, okay, it's wide open forest, nothing scary. I actually sat down and chilled for a while because, everybody else is struggling. So it's like, okay, I can tell we're going to be here for a while. So now, like, okay, now you're going to continue walking and you're going to come to this open field. I look over to my left, there's some mountains. And they're like, okay, you look off to the side and there's some mountains. I'm like, I'm already looking. And they're like, that's your mountain. Now we're going to go there. Boom, I'm flying. I'm already at the top of the mountain. They're like, so let's start walking. I'm like, shit. So I can run back, fly back. So now I'm walking to my mountain. So I get to the base of the mountain, and it's literally like a double wide sidewalk straight to the top. And they're like, okay, now we're going to start climbing our mountain. And again, people are they're making all kinds of noise. I'm like, what the hell is what's going on? It boggles my mind why people make things difficult. And kind of, not that I'm great at it. When I was a kid, I did like math and I was good at it because to me, it just made sense. Everything happens for a reason. And if you just accept that, no problem. But there's so many people that struggle with math. They're the ones making it difficult on themselves. 2 + 2 is always going to be 2. You know what I mean? It doesn't change.
Say that again. 2 + 2 is going to be what?
2 + 2 is going to be 4.
Right. I'm going to replay. You said 2 + 2.
It's a test.
Thank you. That was that life coach moment. That's staying in the tape, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's just helping people get through that, kind of showing them how things can be easier. I'm basically just giving them tricks, tools, explaining things so they can understand it. But I'm going to ask them the questions because they're going to reveal their own answers.
That's awesome.
I'm going to give them some tools that will help them get there, put them in a place where they can be calm, relaxed, and actually listen to themselves. It's kind of like body, mind, and spirit. I believe the majority of humanity believes they're a body, they have a mind, and they also are a spirit. But they never talk to that spirit. They never listen to that spirit. They don't really pay much attention to that spirit. But it's like, okay, if there's divine guidance, I'm thinking in that direction. But most people just could care less about it. And I just find that mind-boggling. But if, can show them and teach them and help them to connect to that inner voice that's actually them, that entity, whatever it is that, is never going to lead them astray. It only has their best interests in mind all the time. So.
No, that's awesome. So, I mean, this is the wild journey, man. So you go to the Marine Corps, go through all these crazy ass experiences. You get out, you're teaching these ROTC kids, and then you go work for the city. I mean, was some part of you all along this journey going, I'm going to be a life coach when I grow up?
That's a great question. I'm a giver, and I find pleasure in helping people, which is kind of funny because men in general, it's, here's the problem, I'm going to solve it, which is great. Not really. With women, because all they want to do is be heard. So the men hear complaint. Well, let me solve your problem because that will stop you from complaining because I don't want to hear it. The women just want to be heard. Right. They're not even looking for a solution. They're like, my life's chaos. I'm trying to juggle 1,000 different things, and let me just share that with you. And we see a problem, we fix it. Something's
right.
broke, fix it. It's chill. So yeah, it's kind of funny.
No, that's interesting. Well, I came, from 19 years in the sales world, and the last stint I spent as a sales trainer, and I always told people that women outsold guys 9 times out of 10 is because when guys get on a sales call, they always want to fix things, and women are like, dude, I just want to find the mess. Yes. And then we'll figure out to sell them the solution. The guy's like, oh, no, let me fix that for you. I'm like, shut up, right? Cut through the process. So very cool. I mean, so you've been doing this life coach for you're about a month into it, or were you doing it before you got?
Well, the full time, like dedicated, like this is all I'm doing now, 100% focused. Yeah, my schedule's opened up to be anywhere, do anything, and so much nicer because vacation, I was fairly new to the city. In Marine Corps, you get 30 days paid walking out the door, and I get here, and it's like you get a day and a half every month. So it can only build up to so much, and then you can only roll over so much, so it's a little drama.
Nice. Okay. How does somebody know that they're ready for a guy like you, a life coach like what you do? I mean, is it somebody going through traumatic experiences? Is it somebody going through transitions? How do they know they're ready for a guy like you?
Everyone's going to be at a different stage in their life, and they can kind of feel the calling for several different reasons. For me, if there is an interest, it resonates with someone, they're like, hey, whether it's just my personality, they gravitate towards me, or they're just seeking, hey, I heard of this buzzword gratitude and, I think there's something behind it, or heard something, read something, saw something. So when they reach out, which right now the main is just through Facebook, I send them like a questionnaire, go through that. We'll eventually get on a call because I want to see if I'm the right fit for them. I don't want to take on just anyone. There's clients that need not quite necessarily what I have to offer. They might need something different. In other words, if we don't resonate or we don't click, I'm going to steer them in a direction that I would recommend they go. I'm not going to just be like, yeah, can't help you, sorry, out the door. But I also don't just want to take on anybody as well.
Well, and I think that's huge. I think a lot of people have the idea they need a coach, and what I think people often forget is they should be vetting the coach as much as a coach should be vetting them.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Don't just 1-800-COACHES and the first one that answers the phone. Okay, I guess you're my guy. It's like
I'm dialing that later to see if that's a number. I guarantee it's something. What are you?
Domino's Pizza.
Well, that's better than what I had going on in my head. So having gratitude or being grateful, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I don't think a lot of people spend enough time on being grateful for what they have. They spend more time focused on what they want, what they desire, which is usually stuff. And stuff doesn't get you anywhere. It does. It gets you broke.
There's other things you can get you too, but
So that's very cool. I don't know that I've met a gratitude coach. I know I have coaches that focus on gratitude as part of the practice. So this is a first for me. So good on you. Are you doing a lot of public speaking with it, or?
Well, you know what? That's the next step. Like I said, there's other irons in the fire. That's now that I have my schedule open, I can commit to those. There was other things events outside Chicago that would occupy my time. So then if something else came up, I didn't have the time to get off. But yeah, that's definitely an avenue. And like I said a little earlier or alluded to, want to write a book. So there's several different things I'd like to get into, but public speaking, definitely.
Awesome. Well, make sure when you do write the book, you put in some of those stories, man. Because,
oh gosh, yeah, they're all going to be in there.
And if you need ghostwriters and anything else along, let me know. I got plenty of contacts. A couple of them have been on the show. So, dude, what a just an awesome journey. How do people get a hold of you if they? I mean, do you do virtual coaching? Do they have to be in Chicago or?
So I've been doing everything through Facebook, and I know, as I'm doing this, it's going to expand. I'm going to branch out into a website. In fact, it's actually under construction now. So, but for the most part, it's Facebook because that's, I find that easy to have keep the group there, and do like the live feed, whatnot. And then, if they catch it live, great for the group. If they catch it live, great. If they don't, the recording will be there. Also, I like to open up because, this last one, I had a guy, he's like, Mike, I'm in Egypt right now, so I don't know if I'll, be able to catch the lives, but I was like, no problem. And I said, I will switch the times so you can have a live if you'd like, up for pushing that off. Because obviously, if someone's paying to come in, just because they're on the other side of the planet, I don't want to punish them because that's where they're at, whether they're traveling or that's where they were born and raised. But, with the internet, it's a global monster and we can, pretty much reach everyone. So I don't want to just cater to those on Central Time or East Coast or West Coast or Hawaii or whatnot. So.
Very cool.
Yeah, for the most part, Facebook. But it's going to be kind of tricky because Michael Doyle is like 3 steps below John Smith as far as commonality goes. Look for the mug. You'll get there.
Nice. And is that the name of the group then?
Well, the group is private, so you can't just request it in. It's invitation only.
Okay.
Shoot me a friend request, send me a message, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so just
if someone's interested, yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And you on all the other outlets like LinkedIn, Twitter?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I never really had time to. They've all been started. I think I had a Twitter account like 4 or 5 years ago, tweeted once or twice, and now I upgraded, and I think I'm up to 4 tweets.
I think if you only tweet once or twice, it's called a twit at that point. It's not even full. Yeah.
It's a twatter.
Right.
So yeah, no, those are all, I'm going to get, spooled up on those. In fact, on LinkedIn, I did change it because I was real hesitant. I was keeping everything like on the down low. I was working for the city of Chicago. I didn't really want them to know that I was, doing all this other stuff. But I did talk to my deputy commissioner, and I said, look, how much advance notice do you need, if I were to leave here? And he's like, I don't need any time at all. He's like, this isn't just for you. He said, I tell everyone, do you think there's something better out there than this job? Because I don't want to hold you back. He said, that's great. I could appreciate that. I said, but I'm not just going to walk away from you. I want to help prepare you and, everyone else and, the team. And he's like, no, seriously. And then I was like, okay, slow down. I'm going to get an answer. So for me, it was the real busy season was winter because getting snow off the streets of Chicago makes or breaks or hires and fires the mayor.
And that's why I stay away from Chicago.
Yes. Yeah. Greatest place in the world to visit.
Yes, I would agree with that. Cool city. Yeah. Cool city.
So he said, either leave by October 1st or stay through the winter season. And that was 2 years ago. So I gave him 2 extra seasons and then I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Nice.
I'm doing this full time now.
Awesome. I like to finish up the shows this way, man. If you could give somebody advice, maybe it's a phrase, maybe it's a thought, something they can take with them on their journey as they continue down their path, a thought process, anything that, they can put in their toolbox and say, this can help me on my journey. What would you tell them?
There isn't anything outside you that can create happiness. Happiness comes from inside. Okay. So that's an inside job. When you are in a conversation, listen to understand, question to confirm, and then respond. All too often people react to their outside environment rather than responding. And if you could, actually just observe rather than reacting, especially in traffic. If you can drive and just see someone, say they cut you off, we define the meaning of the moment. So you have a choice. You can either wonder why that person would be in such a rush that they would knowingly cut you off. Could it be they run into the hospital? Could it be that they need to get to the hospital? Could someone be in danger? They're just late for work. Send more concern for them rather than let them now control your emotions, which are usually going to be anger, frustration, and rage, when it could be, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian kind of mantra, which is, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Send that out silently to people, especially the ones that cut you off, because those are actually the people that need it most. So many people are like, yeah, I'm going to pray for the people that are good. Well, not that they don't need it. Everyone needs it. But yeah, the people that are not doing well need it more than anyone.
It's awesome. Dr. Wayne Dwyer, before he passed, had a great phrase, and he says, there's no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. And I've always tried to embrace that. Right?
Absolutely.
Man, thank you so much for being on the show, dude. It was an absolute.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. This was a lot of fun, man. Let's stay in touch and help let me promote your stuff around, brother.
Let's get those beers and tell the real story.
There you go.
Or tell the other side of the story.
Right. Perfect. Guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode. I hope you were impressed by it as much as I was. Man, keep kicking ass in life. Please do me a favor. Comment, share, tell your friends about this. Every share just brightens my day. I appreciate it.